Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patreon, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Chris Hillman, NA Literalist, Maria Nealons, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Rob H, Burn Fat Till My Stomach Is As Flat As the Earth, Nathan Thompson, The Real Gabster, Windrider, Missouri Bear, Henrik86, Liam Nedrick, Erwin Jennisons, Abraham Mohammed, Dave Rakia Gafford, Naibai, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Fireball X, Felix Hung, TheFlatEarthChannel.com, Texas Mike, Edwin Johnson, Kirsten Smith, Alexander Main, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now, we are joined by a motley crew of people in the Discord server, so I'll raise the mic on them, and you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Check 1, 2.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hey. Is that my rib guy?
Ribs in the house.
Ribs in the house.
Ribs and pibs.
Ribs in the house. A good channel name right there, buddy. Well, everybody must be getting their coffee.
Almost done with work.
Oh, good.
I'm watching Ford versus Ferrari for like the 20th time.
But you own the Mercedes.
But I never knew about this, that they went head to head in the 60s and they raced at the Le Mans, and Ford won actually 5 years in a row.
Yeah.
It's the Ferrari.
Yeah, there was a story.
The history
on.
Nathan will love this because they get into the technical stuff. How they build the car.
There was another. What was it? Yeah, the story came out before the movie came out through some means. I can't remember.
Yeah, a story of Ken Miles.
Yeah, and then they made the movie of it. But I heard it before the movie came out, so I can't remember where.
No idea.
Enzo Ferrari walked out when they couldn't come to terms with Ford. So he was literally sat with all of their bigwigs around the board table with the contract in front of him, and he walked out. He didn't want to agree to the contract. That was basically it. And, you know, Enzo's sole purpose really wasn't selling motor cars. That wasn't what he did. He was a race car enthusiast. He was interested in racing.
Exactly.
So the only point of Ferrari back then was to supplement their racing. That's all it was for. So while you could buy a beautiful engine attached to an absolute piece of shit, that was true. So you could buy a Ferrari, but you know what they were putting their heart and soul into wasn't the road cars. Now Ford, on the other hand, obviously they're a business and they're making road cars, but they still beat Ferrari at their own game, didn't they? And they did it with the GT40, right? I mean, that's a fairly
Did you see it yet, though?
Thanks to Shelby.
I haven't yet. Well, I've got no amps to watch it. I've got quite a few lists. I've got a list of films I want to watch. I've just got no amplifiers.
You would love it. When you watch it, you're going to really like it.
Hey guys, talking about Ford vs Ferrari.
Yeah.
Very good movie.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see it. I know the story like the back of my hand anyway, so it's it's not an unfamiliar story to me. Although it's obviously an unfamiliar story to most people.
But to me, it was. But from how you explained it, if you didn't see the movie, then they pretty much got it correct.
Well, those are the details. That's not the movie. The movie's based on the facts of the matter.
The movies they don't line up with the story. The way you were explaining it, that's exactly how they did it in the movie.
Okay.
You mean the movies don't have a physical geometric edge either?
The bottom line is Ford won. They beat them at their own game.
No, I saw a video yesterday. I'll try to dig it up and send it to you, Nathan. It was what was it? A Mustang? Was it a Mustang? Yeah, well, anyway, it was an American car. And they were at this airfield somewhere, and he had got some kind of engine in it that him and his boys put in. And he was beating every car that was, racing him down the strip. And it was phenomenal just, to watch it. I just kind of glanced at it, but I'm going to watch it again because I was doing something else and the volume was kind of down.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. Quarter mile racing.
In this Ford versus Ferrari, they got the Ken Miles guy. He was the one. He's English guy, right? Are you familiar with that? I'm sure you are. I mean, I just found out about it by watching.
Yeah, he's the mechanic.
He's the mechanic and the driver that they didn't want. If that part of the story,
he had to fight for his place. Yeah, he had to fight for his place.
And I mean, he built the majority of everything that they used in that race car. He designed it from scratch and built it. The one thing that the movie did portray, and I'm glad the movie did portray it, was the trick that they used in the movie about switching out an entire assembly.
Yeah, the brake assembly. They took the whole thing out.
Yeah, that was one thing that was like the most notable, because they were the first ones to ever do it in the race, was actually take whole assemblies and replace them as one big old piece, which didn't break the rules technically, but they were the first ones to do it. And then from that day forward, a lot of the other racers in that, a lot of racing teams from that day forward started using the same concept on their cars. So replacing things in massive assemblies or having things set up in assemblies that could be easily bolted on and run was their big thing that they basically pioneered. So, Ford Motor Company pioneered a lot of things,
Well, these days with F1, it's different though. So you can get away with it for the season. They can implement things on a trial basis. And then normally what happens is if they're any good, every other team tries to get it banned, right? So if you've got a good idea, the most recent example of that has come to a head because of the new Gordon Murray car, which has got a fan on the back of it, which is a bit of a gimmick, but it's still cool. But, back in the day, he was doing fan cars that were literally sucking these race cars to the track. I mean, you could enter corners 20 mile an hour faster than every one of your competitors. So that's obviously a massive advantage. So obviously they want it banned, and that's how it normally works. So they can implement it for
that's why they banned it.
Yeah, but they'd still used it, right? It was still used competitively because it was being used during that season.
It was actually very clever engineering.
Yeah, it is. Can't deny it. So ban it.
What's
how can he go so fast around corners?
What's the DRS now? Formula cars where they use the DRS. What does that do for them?
Sorry, I nipped away. What was your question? Sorry.
I said, I watch enough Formula car races because I enjoy it, like the MotoGP as well. The motorcycle guys are, I think, at the top of the game of this, but that's my preference. But the DRS that the Formula One cars use and then they don't use, what does that do for them?
I think from my understanding,
It's a drag.
It's for drag. So you've got a certain amount of energy recuperation that you can utilize to change the aerodynamics of the car and make it go faster. So you can. They usually use DRS on a straight. So you build up DRS over the course of the race, and then when you get to a straight and you want to actually overtake somebody, I think it's an excellent idea on account of the fact that where you just had boring F1 racing, no one's ever overtaking anyone. Now you've got this sort of variable thrown in where people can actually overtake, where they can put themselves at an advantage on a straight, which is what people want to see, right? People want to see people overtaking each other, right?
Sure, that's what makes it exciting.
People want to see the wrecks. That's what people want to see when they're watching racing.
Oh, I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't want to see that. I don't agree with that. I don't want to see that.
I want to see someone do a mad maneuver. I want to see him come close. I kind of know where you're coming from, because when you see someone do an overtake where there's an inch between them through a bend, right, and you're on edge because of the danger of it all going wrong. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean I want to see it go wrong. You just go, whoa, and then you go, yeah, as they get through. But you don't want to see him. Yeah. You don't want to see the lead racer go out because he's clipped another wheel, and I don't want to see that.
No, I mean,
it's like I don't know how many NASCAR races you've ever watched.
Oh, NASCAR! The only reason you watch is to see them crash, right?
Yeah,
you want to see a 20-car pilot at 200 miles an hour. That's the whole fun. You want to see 20 cars.
The Bristol race, which...
Go on.
Yeah, the Bristol race, which is called the dual drag strips, the Bristol track in Tennessee. You know, that it's the shortest track in NASCAR, you know, and you cram 40 cars on it and they're all trying to get around each other. It's not even half of them, I think, ever finish, because they just beat the crap out of each other, slam each other in walls, spin out, tear each other up.
Yeah, it's one of those I've never actually followed, although I have seen, obviously I know what NASCAR is and I've got a good idea what they do, and I have seen it, but it's not something I've ever followed. You know, the quarter mile racing, on the other hand, I love all that stuff. They go absolutely bonkers, especially with
but Nathan,
go on.
As you guys are talking, NASCAR is a perfect example of your show, because this is where 40 ballers come and most of them, if not all of them, in one day get wrecked.
They used to. Not the
they all pile in.
Yeah, I like watching the tight turns and when they try to overtake, and then he has, you know, and then he's got to be a little defensive, but then I don't want to see a crash, but I do like to see the tires rubbing.
Yeah, exactly. You want it close.
Yeah.
Go on. Go on.
I was just saying, yeah, when the tires rub and the smoke coming from the cars in between. Yeah.
Now, if you want to see something,
I've been big in there my whole life. So, we did different types of family racing. We did, starting as kids, me and my brothers. We did go-kart racing. We moved up to bandoleros, and we moved up into stock cars for dirt track. We moved up into open wheel modifieds. And my brother went into doing sprint cars for a couple of years, and then
what cars?
I dropped out after that. I couldn't
sprint
I couldn't
cars.
afford sprint car.
What's a sprint car?
Have you ever seen a sprint? Here, I'll share a picture
right?
in chat real quick.
Okay, I can't see chat, but just tell me, what's a sprint car? Maybe I do know what it is. It's just an unfamiliar term.
Well, they're basically
right?
like little cars that have the big wing on top of them. Like one side of the wing goes down, one side of the wing goes up. You know, it's kind of like a Z that's laid sideways on top of the car. They run on basically high-powered motorcycle engines.
Okay, I do know what you mean. One high side wing, one low side wing. Yeah, I do know what you mean.
I mean, if you can see the chat, I'm about to share a picture of one.
No, I do know what you mean. Very cool stuff.
When I was growing up, I would say 60s, 70s, they used to have the total cars that could be totaled, and they'd be in like an arena, and you have to smash each other. You can go. Most of them went backwards.
Demolition Derby.
Yeah, demolition
Derby,
that
Demolition
was the
Derby.
fun-
Yeah.
That was the funnest thing to watch as a kid.
Yeah, Derby.
Derby's
Yeah,
where
the local dirt track here, we have endurance racing once a year where anybody can join. There's very few restrictions. Of course, the car that you bring can't have any windows or windshields, any glass, period. No headlights or taillights or nothing. But you can use whatever car you want. You just have to buy a little beater that actually drives, and they'll throw everybody out there on the track, and it's basically last man standing. And but you do have to go around the track. It's not purposeful to be a demolition derby, so there is that kind of rule. Like, you're not going to sit there and try to purposefully slam people, but it is last man standing with basically a street car on a oval racetrack.
cool.
I mean, it's a lot of fun. Plus, winner walks away with like $5,000. So
So you could buy another car.
so you can go buy another one. Yeah.
It was great. I like the MotoGP is awesome. I mean, these kids, I've been following this kid Marquez on the MotoGP. He is fearless. I mean, they're all fearless. They go on those motorcycles so fast and make those turns. And I mean, it is just watching. I mean, if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, which I have, and it just sends you there, man.
Talking of
I'm
cars.
not allowed to.
Sorry to break this
My
up. I just
wife
want to segue this back into the subject, as we've got 7 minutes before we start live. So I don't know if anybody caught this, but I happened to not catch something that I typically would watch every video for. But Donut Media did a video about cars that are now cheap, that you can buy, that were good and expensive, and now you can get for pittance, right? To be perfectly honest, that video just didn't appeal to me, so I didn't watch it. But I've watched all of their high-low series. I've watched most Donut Media videos because I think both of them are funny, or all of them, a whole bunch of them. Anyway, DITH is obviously a Donut Media fan because he did watch that video and pointed out that the guy, during the commentary on 2 separate occasions, describes how it's the best car on this flat plane we live on. And he said it twice. Now, Death's spin on it was to say...
Nolan said it, yeah.
Death's spin was to say we're everywhere, where you least expect it. Watching a video about getting a cheap supercar, flat earther.
Well, it's plain talk. That's right.
Yeah, well-
Good show.
I like that video that you
vacuum
posted,
in-
Flat
Should I see
Joy.
if I can find it.
Oh, that.
Video you posted.
Oh, with the Coriolis.
No, the guy that was doing all of those, he was calling them experiments with the, what do you call it, the balloons
Oh,
and,
the physics. Yeah, the
yeah,
physics of tech.
that was
That's quite
good.
cool.
Liquid
Amazing how you
nitrogen.
use containers for everything, eh?
Containers everywhere.
Yep. I like the Nathan doing good cop, bad cop yesterday, except he used good dog, bad dog.
Right, I found this Death video. It's only going to be audio for you guys, but the audience will get to see it. So let's give it some sound. Go.
Easily one of the fanciest words in the English language. It instantly calls to mind diamond rings, solid gold toilet, and of course, question, who's classier than 007 Mr. Jake Bond? Answer, not a single person on this flat green earth. And the super spy himself drove a BMW 750. Not a single person on this flat green earth. Not a single person on this flat green earth. Thanks to the 25-year import rule, you can buy an imported Century for under $10,000. This is literally one of the most coveted cars on the face of this flat green earth, of this flat green earth, of this flat green earth, but is super cheap in America because nobody.
He's flat earther.
Good stuff, huh?
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I don't
Good
think,
stuff.
and I don't think they globally realize what he says.
I'd have caught that. I would have done a video on that if I'd have caught that. So when I saw it's just typical, right? I'm not moaning, but Dave, he's always just that one little step ahead of me with almost bloody everything when it comes to current affairs and flat Earth. He's always been like that.
That was so last week, right?
Yeah, exactly. I do a show daily on this subject. I've got people coming to me, giving me information literally daily. Yeah, DITRH still manages to stay ahead of the curve with me on that particular score. Doesn't matter how much time elapses, nothing changes. There we go.
Here,
shout out to DITRH.
I'll let you jump ahead of Dave here with a picture of Master B. This is a hidden camera finding how ballers get ready for your show.
Okay, let the belly rubs begin.
That's why they come here. They want to go through the bad dog routine.
That was hysterical yesterday.
Oh
Bad
my
dog.
gosh! I was laughing. I was laughing so hard.
What, me calling Ed a bad dog?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
it's for me that kind of I don't know if it's the right word, satire or whatever, is better than foul language. I mean, it was making me laugh so hard because you were nailing it with good satire. You know, bad dog, good dog. Oh, I'll give you a tummy rub.
So wait a second. You don't like when Nathan says, "How do you like the taste of my nuts?" I understand that.
No, I like Nathan's show to one day be for the mass population of children. That's what I like because the arguments are so good. There'll be an army of rebellious children taking down the lab coats.
Foul mouth Brits.
I'll try and be a bit less foul-mouthed going forward. Well, one thing that's drawn my attention to it is I watch with subtitles. I don't know how many months ago my kid blew out one of my ears and it's never really recovered properly. So I watch almost everything with subtitles on YouTube if they're available. And obviously the subtitle techniques have changed over time. Now, whenever there's certain curse words that presumably they don't like, they blank them out in the subtitles. They put a square bracket, dash, 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 square bracket for whatever word you may use. Now, I'm going to try this out right now. If I say that the person is retarded versus a retard, one of those will get censored. It's just going to encourage my audience to turn on the subtitles and see which one. But yeah, check it out. So you can get an idea of, it's just an idea of what YouTube do and do not want on their platform. Now, obviously, they're not going to explicitly say we don't want you to say the F word because they explicitly say when they're asking you how bad is the language in this, is there the F word in the intro? Is it light profanity throughout? They use words like that. So they're not going to say, look, you've only got 10 fucks. They're not going to say that. So you've got to kind of gauge what they do and don't want. And that particular method I think is quite useful. So as a direct result of that, I've gone, okay, they don't like this word and they don't mind that word. And it's TV standards, which is kind of what I knew anyway. But on the other hand, I also knew that I could get away with it. So it's like, if I can get away with telling someone to suck my balls, South Park TV standards, right?
No, I don't watch South Park TV. I don't have a TV.
I've nicked it from Cartman. That's what Cartman tells people. You can suck my balls.
I think those YouTube rules are retarded. What happened? Anything?
Did you start the show?
I don't know. I'm not starting it. No, we've got a minute or so.
No, I was just seeing if it worked.
You want to check out what words of your own get censored in the subtitles. Fair enough.
But you told us to do it.
Like I say, I don't think it's necessarily the case that they just want to censor people's language. But by the same token, excessive use of certain words they don't want, and you can blame them. Like, I'm conscious of it, so you said it immediately. I'm aware that children watch the show, whether I like it or not. My niece watches it, and I'm like, oh, okay. So that isn't necessarily at the forefront of my mind when I'm, I just use the words, when I'm teabagging somebody who's been a complete moron.
I know, but the way you did it yesterday is a perfect template for replacement of those words with the bad dog, good dog. I mean, those things, that makes everybody laugh. We get the point. Yeah, the kids would laugh. Your message and your debate points are so strong here. I just want everybody to hear it. And I know parents will not allow, the show to be heard in front of their kids if it's got foul language.
Fair enough.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Paul Hall, Flatsoid, 10th Man, Neil, Chocolate Saying, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. Welcome, one and all.
Hello, good afternoon.
Goedemiddag allemaal.
Hello.
No.
Hello? Hello. So just before the live show went live, I played out a clip from DITRH, which was of Donut Media, discussing how some used cars are the best value on the flat plane we are living on. So just an interesting clip, hence that's the top link in the chat if you're watching live. So if you're not already, I doubt that's the case, as he's far more subscribed to than me, and I've got a pretty focused audience. Go and subscribe to DRTH and check out that particular video. There's a link at the top of the live stream. Any evidence of a physical, geometric, sphere-edge horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Not from this flat plane.
Nope. Not from the flat green earth.
No,
Sphere edge?
plum is always plum.
How about plums?
They get you out of a jam.
Plums are delicious.
Plums have a
delicious,
geometric
they're always
horizon.
Vertical.
Plums have a geometric horizon? We're going to go into this in detail or
You first have to assume a zenith.
Go on, you're on the right track. Go ahead. I'd rather it was detailed. Feel free, Flatsoid. Or maybe not. So when you're taking your position, if you're going to do any geodetic surveying for the sake of argument, what you do is you'd stand on your piece of land. So wherever you are watching this now, on the great flat plane we dwell atop, imagine your position with a plumb line. So you drop a plumb and it points directly down. Well, that's akin to your zenith, the line that would run from the centre down through your head downwards. That's your zenith. Well, you take that zenith and you reference a datum, a sphere-based datum. It might not necessarily be sphere-shaped, but it's going to be referencing the idea that you're standing upon a sphere. And you say, well, I'm not actually standing pointing straight down. That's only relative to me in my position. But I'm actually pointing at this angle towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. Now that's what they assume when they're standing in their first position. So they've got a tangent plane to survey, i.e. their position is based on a tangent that they've assumed because they're assuming a spherical surface beneath their feet. So yeah, assuming your zenith is pointing towards the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth is the trick used by geodetic surveyors to beg the question of a presupposed spherical Earth, when they're actually going to be using all of the Euclidean principles you would use to measure it flat, because it is.
Yes, don't forget, they throw away the Euclidean geometry by making a triangle more than 180 degrees.
They're going to need absolute standard geometry when they're asserting it with their globe assumption later down the line. Moving on.
So, hang on. So,
on.
Flat Earth, why did they change the triangle to 100 from 180? Why did they do that?
Because they need it for a sphere.
So how do you get your angles then?
Assume a zenith.
So are you saying that they took a triangle and purposely made it what it was not and changed the angle so it could work on the ball?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm done.
Any
What
evidence?
ball would that be?
The one they presuppose.
Oh, okay.
Well, if they're going to change plumb lines, they're going to deal with pitfalls.
Indeed.
Jeez, man.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
None whatsoever.
See question
I did a
number
video
one.
on Coriolis.
Oh yeah. Did you
I
see?
did a video on Coriolis.
Is that so, Flatsoid? Did you see 15 degrees an hour drift as the Earth turned underneath something in the inertial reference frame?
No.
No.
But I made a Coriolis effect demonstration, 29 seconds long.
Oh sure. Oh, I can't wait to see that too. But yeah, just so the point's laboured. Coriolis is absolutely real. I can demonstrate it from a roundabout, looking at a lamppost or something. Looks like it's coming towards me, but isn't really, because I'm spinning underneath it. Yeah, Coriolis is real, but they claim Earth's got that. They say we're on a spinning, like a roundabout, but a spinning Earth. So they're claiming 15 degrees an hour. When you sent your balloon up and it was just suspended, did it not have the Earth turn underneath it at 15 degrees an hour? Because that's what they claim.
No, and it took me about an hour to let it get still and then still stood still for 25 minutes and longer.
Isn't that nuts? So no 15 degrees an hour deviation as the Earth turns underneath. Isn't that amazing? So they just made that up then?
No. But I made a vision on Coriolis effect. It's in Master B.
Now, isn't that interesting that Coriolis is a real thing, and they use it, and the ballers think that they're using that word properly. And then they come to this show, and Nathan says, yeah, so you got two reference frames. And they have no idea that Coriolis to happen, to cause a Coriolis, you're going to have a non-inertial reference frame and an inertial reference frame. And that's where their mind just locks up.
Well, the definitions they give you don't help either when you look it up in, let's say, Google or what's the other thing, Wiki. Definitions don't help.
Well, who put those definitions there, and what are they trying to cover themselves on?
I like the one that was provided by the ballers themselves that describes the Coriolis effect as an illusion and apparent deflection. Yeah.
I believe that was Kosho, and it was thought.co, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so for clarity, Kosho is being asked if he would assert that the wind, as we just had a picture of a hurricane up, if the wind is travelling straight and only appears to curve because we're turning underneath. That's the assertion of Coriolis on an Earth that spins. We're turning underneath an inertial reference frame, causing a not actual deflection. So in the case of hurricanes, the question's put to the globe believer. So the winds are travelling straight then, and it just seems to be drifting. And his answer, Chocolate, was...
Hurricane winds are 100% traveling straight.
Yeah, the problem is when they use hurricanes have got an actual spin direction. And Coriolis effect is an observation of not actual drift. Are you looking at something like a lamppost from a spinning roundabout, seeming to come towards you? Now, the roundabout isn't really coming towards you. It's not moving. It's concreted into the ground. So it's not actual drift. So when you talk about a hurricane, you go, well, that's got an actual rotation direction. Coriolis is you rotating and observing something not rotating. And it's the apparent drift because you're rotating and it isn't. Well, so hurricanes, well, unless you're flying around in the hurricane, you're not going to be observing Coriolis effect when it comes to hurricanes. It's just nonsense that's polluted in the internet searches. Go on.
Will you show that video in Master B?
Which video?
I think the ballers need a new one I did. The actual Coriolis effect demonstration.
Not if it's not yours. Is it yours?
I made it, yeah.
Oh yeah, let's stick it up. Absolutely, if that's yours.
Because I realized the Globers don't understand how Coriolis works.
Let's just start it again. So it's playing now for the audience. Can you talk us through it, Flatsoid? I know you can't see it.
Sorry, someone's just blowing with a pipe. It's louder.
Oh, my bad. Okay, well, there's the. I'll spam the link so people can go and check it out for themselves. Yeah, Coriolis is not actual deflection. Something seeming to drift because you're turning underneath it.
Well, I think Flatsoid
when I first heard Coriolis.
I think
Go ahead, Dan.
Thanks.
One at a time.
It's perfect. Are you sure that video was Coriolis? It looked like it was more axial rotation.
I think he can hear you.
Go on, Neil.
When I first heard about Coriolis, I was told it was the way your drain went down from the southern hemisphere as opposed to the northern hemisphere. That's what I always thought Coriolis was.
Yeah, I remember that. Something about toilets flushing in different directions.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got actual spin directions. Coriolis is an observation of not actual deflection. Not actual spin. Seeming to spin, but not actually. That would be Coriolis. Spinning, as you observe it spinning, with an actual spin, like water going down a bowl, that's not Coriolis. The only example that would give you Coriolis in that example would be if you were in a giant whirlpool spinning around and around, and you look at the bank of the river while you're in the whirlpool, and say, oh, look, the tree looks like it's coming towards me. No, the tree's got its roots firmly planted in the ground, but as you spin in a whirlpool, you're on the spinning reference frame, or in it, and you're observing something that seems to come towards you, the tree on the bank, but it's actually you turning underneath, therefore it's not actually moving, the tree's not actually coming towards you, it's permanently fixed to the bank. But it's seeming to come towards you, that's Coriolis. So unless you're swirling down a toilet, you're not experiencing Coriolis when you look at that.
But this thing is wrong on so many levels, and this is exactly what I said earlier, and you just summarized it perfect. So actual versus not actual. The law of non-contradiction comes all over them here, because remember, Rumpus, we do, we don't. I mean, this applies to almost everything that they argue about.
Bottom line is, the cause of Coriolis effect is a non-inertial spinning reference frame turning underneath an inertial reference frame to produce the observation, that's you seeing something, of a not actual deflection. That's what Coriolis actually is. Now, if you've got that on Earth, that would be you on a non-inertial spinning Earth, observing things that aren't attached to Earth, seeming to drift. So you launch a drone and it hovers. It's not moving left, not moving right, not moving up, not moving down. It's hovering. But if Earth was turning underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, it would drift away from you. Now, it's not because it's powering itself away from you with its motors, it's hovering. It's just Earth is claimed to turn underneath the drone. It just doesn't happen. Drones don't just drift away from you. Hot air balloons, same principle. You go up in the hot air balloon from the ground. If you've got Coriolis effect, you look at the hot air balloon and go, it looks like it's drifting away from me. I thought they said they were just going to go up and there's no wind. Well, if it goes up and Earth turns underneath it at 15 degrees an hour, you come back down again an hour later, and the Earth's turned underneath at the rate of 15 degrees an hour. So you land in a completely different spot. Doesn't happen, because Earth isn't turning. There is no 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath to give you Coriolis effect.
I see Roger MC in chat is saying, you don't understand Coriolis.
Yeah, I've just detailed it.
I know you did.
Excellent rebuttal.
They don't understand it.
Why did they use it then?
Because it's a way of begging the question that Earth's turning. Assert that we've got Coriolis effect. We see drift because Earth's turning underneath stuff. If they were here arguing with us, which they're not, I might add, they'd say, no, we wouldn't expect to see drift in an aeroplane, or in this example I've just used, a hot air balloon. No, we wouldn't expect to see it. Well, why are you claiming there's 15 degrees an hour deviation as Earth turns underneath then?
Because they're bad dogs.
Wow, that sounds quite like the geometric horizon that we don't expect to see, that we should see, is defined as something that we do see. But we've never seen it, don't expect to see it, can never see it, due to us having an atmosphere, yet we have a measurement to such a thing that we can't see, but we can measure.
Chocolate
because reasons. You see my
You can
point?
think squid is real.
Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No,
Where's the
no, I
geometric
can't
for
see
that?
it.
Black Swan.
Would you not first need geometry for that?
For the assertion of R? Yeah, it's part of the geometry assertion. That's right.
So is the horizon geometric?
No, it's not a physical
it's an
location
apparent.
capable of geometric derivation. No, it's not physical. Shout out to Retro Bill. He says, Man Dan's trampoline video disproves Coriolis. Yeah, you're right. You know, you're supposed to see 15 degrees an hour deviation. That was quite amusing. So, because of the baller's lack of comprehension when it comes to Coriolis, Simon Dan sent me a video via Twitter of a trampoliner. You'll see it in this. It goes on my roll. I had it. I was like, I'm having that. A trampoline guy with a tractor pulling it along, and the guy not drifting. So Simon Dan saying, look, this guy goes up, comes back down on the trampoline. He doesn't drift. It's like, so not drifting at 15 degrees an hour, eh, Simon Dan? Why are you showing me this? Is it because you're trying to assert that we don't have 15 degrees an hour deviation as per the globe claim? You moron. Show me drift. Show me 15 degrees an hour, not things not drifting, you complete clown. Don't you know what your assertion is to prove Earth spins? 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath. It's called Coriolis effect, Simon Dan. Why are you showing me stuff not drifting? Hello?
Well, I hear that is meaning that the atmosphere is moving with the Earth. But try that at 70 miles an hour. Let me see that happen.
Here we go.
Atmosphere moving with the Earth. That would mean one reference frame.
Yeah.
Therefore, no Coriolis.
Well, I agree. But I want to see them do that at 70 miles an hour.
I can't read this text. It's too blurry because of the low resolution video that I use. You and your reference frames have been... What does that say? Ruined. You and your reference frames have been ruined. So what he's asserting with this video, Simon Dan, is that there's only one reference frame. Yeah? See? One reference frame. Got the reference
Correct.
frame of the trampoline, and even though it's moving, it's still a single reference frame. He's bouncing up and down without any problem. So one reference frame. Well, Coriolis effect, the 15 degrees an hour deviation that you claim proves Earth spins, has got 2 reference frames, Simon Dan. So these sorts of assertions from baller idiots, let's just call them what they are, people like Simon Dan, are their own downfall. You know, this is clown behaviour from a clown. Simon Dan is a clown. He thinks that you only need 1 reference frames. 1 reference frame? Because he's asserting that this is a demonstration that defies the drift we should see if Earth's turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour. He's saying, look, no drift. Oh, right, no 15 degrees an hour then, Dan? Moron? I mean, silly Billy?
Then the Earth's not turning.
Yeah, then there's no 15 degrees an hour demonstration.
I think it's. But conservation of momentum.
What about it? So it's conserving momentum, so not drifting then? Well, Coriolis is their claim. They claim we see drift. Oh, conserving it to not drift. So your justification for not having the proof of Earth spin at 15 degrees an hour is that it doesn't drift. Well, shouldn't it drift to prove it's spinning? Isn't that the whole point of your claim that we've got Coriolis? That's drift. So what, you're going to show us it not drifting? Great example of Coriolis, Dan. No, they just don't understand what Coriolis effect is. They haven't got the vaguest notion, otherwise he wouldn't have shown this embarrassing shite.
Nathan, the evidence for Coriolis effect in that example is if the tractor decided to turn left or right, and that guy would appear to keep going in that direction, that would be Coriolis effect.
And that's what he said, is it? Let's have a look. Nathan Oakley, 80. You and your reference frames have been ruined. No, Simon Dan, your comprehension of Coriolis effect and 15 degrees an hour deviation that's claimed to prove Earth spins has been ruined, and you have been demonstrated to be quite stupid. Because you don't seem to understand what Coriolis requires. That would be 2 reference frames and a 15 degrees an hour deviation. That's what you need. So it seems that Simon Dan's debunking that notion. Simon Dan thinks there shouldn't be any drift. All right, well, you're just wrong.
He's
Maybe
debunking.
learn your globe religion better, Simon Dan. You are a clown.
He's only debunking himself.
Well, demonstrating to his audience that he's a clown. And when they cheer and clap for him, they're all demonstrating how stupid they are. Oh, Simon Dan said that this is not drifting. All right, what are you trying to prove again? That proves Earth spins, no drift. No, it doesn't. You're supposed to be claiming it does drift, Simon Dan. Hello? But I don't mind educating morons like Simon Dan.
They always argue for our side.
Yeah. Join the club, Dan. Go around telling everyone how there isn't drift, like we do.
Yeah, welcome to Flat Earth then.
All bad dogs.
I misread his quote. I can only apologise. Someone says, can't you read, Nathan? Well, no, not at this distance, to be perfectly ruthless. So I've misread that. Maybe someone can paraphrase it, because if I read it incorrectly, it's my bad. Shall we get the gist from the video he sent me via Twitter, though? He's showing that there's only 1 reference frame and it's not drifting. That's what he's implying, even though he's supposed to have drift. Maybe moan about how I mispronounced one of the words that was there that was very blurry for me, rather than focus on the fact that he's showing no drift. What about that 15 degrees an hour? You ball trolls come in and tell me Bob proved. Isn't it supposed to be 15 degrees an hour? Yeah? Drift, right? Yeah, Dan doesn't understand. He's silly, he's stupid. He needs educating.
You read something wrong.
I could take Simon Dan, put him in the back of my pickup truck, go over a bump on the dirt road at, say, 10, 12 miles an hour. He'll go up in the air. My truck will go underneath him. I've done it. I had 4 kids in the back of the truck. They almost fell out of the truck.
Moving on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Nope.
None.
It's all cloudy out there.
Not whether or not we can see it.
Nope.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
The supposed data. I'm still waiting to hear about it.
Yeah, P waves and S waves.
Yeah, they're not going to cut it, though.
Cut it. Boom, boom. Anyone going to expand on that? I don't know if I can be bothered with molten iron core nonsense with P waves and S waves. They got it wrong when they dug the Kola, what's it called, deep borehole at 8 miles deep. What they predicted would be in the way wasn't. So P waves and S waves are flawed. You get it wrong over 8 miles.
Wasn't it that they didn't just get like the end part wrong? I thought it was actually much worse than that. That like every step of the way, their predictions were wrong. Like, what are you going to find after this? Well, we're supposed to be finding that. Okay, we didn't get that. Oh, okay, we got to remodel. Okay, what are we supposed to find next? Well, we estimate it's going to be this. Okay, yeah, we didn't find that. It was more like that, I think.
Yeah. What were you supposed to go through today? We're supposed to go through granite. What did you go through today? Clay. What are you going through tomorrow? Water. Oh, okay, that should be easy. What did you hit? We hit sand. All right, what are you going to hit tomorrow? We're going to hit definitely going to hit some really solid metals. What did you actually hit? We hit granite.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So they tell us that their model makes predictions, but they can't even predict their model.
They can't even dig a hole. Predict that correctly.
They can't predict a hole in the ground.
Yeah, they can't even dig a hole and get the prediction right. They reckon they know what's the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and they can't even dig 8 miles and get the guess right.
But
their models make predictions, though. They've been telling us that for years.
But
Chocolate, their models couldn't predict a hole in the ground.
But Chocolate, then how do their models get it so wrong that there's two suns appearing all of a sudden?
What? Models are pseudoscience, right? When they say prediction, it's got great connotation surrounding that word, but they also claim science around a lot of the stuff that they assert. Now, indirectly or directly, they don't have any science, and yet they use words like prediction. Well, in science, a prediction's a hypothesis, and they don't have any science. So what's their prediction? Well, a model is a Mystic Meg Nostradamus prediction. Yeah, unlike scientific empiricism, which is offered by systematic experimentation based on hypotheses. Well, that gives you an empirical result where models do not. They might show correlation and good data gathering, but it's not empirical and it's not showing cause. So to assert Earth's a sphere because we've modelled it as a sphere, well, that's a reification fallacy. Just because you can model something in a certain way doesn't mean you're standing on a sphere.
Well,
Yeah,
my
the
point in saying
observations-
my point in saying P waves and S waves is the inflection of the way I did it. It wasn't to prove anything because they have no proof. They just say these words like they mean something, and the average Joe just says, "Oh, okay, that explains it."
I mean, observations have been going on for thousands of years. All they did was take their data and model their model according to their data. That's all. They made it work for them.
Well, I did have a baller a couple days ago say that timeanddate.com are the model that they're talking about. So time and date is their model.
Time and date. Well, for a start, time and date.
Try that before.
Does time and date not lay it out on a Mercator projection for a start?
Yeah, it's when I usually typically look at it, it's like a Mercator projection to me, but yeah. Sure.
Oh right, so it's it's flat square, and what's the words Arwen use? What's it called when it's looping? What's it called?
What? A flat globe?
How would the sun? If the sun goes off
rectangular looping.
Yeah, if the sun goes off the edge of the Mercator projection and onto the other side, as per timeanddate.com, what would you call that, Arwen? Rectangular looping.
Yes.
So we've got a rectangular looping model as per time and date.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Woohoo!
Yeah,
That makes me think of a video I saw
I can hear the rebuttal already. But it's a globe projection. Oh, right, is it now? So that means we live on a projection of a model.
That reminds me of a video Michio Kaku brought out about 8 years ago. He was trying to explain things, and he puts a picture up on Mercator projection. He says it's a photo from satellites of Earth.
But what if it isn't a globe projection, but it is actually projected into a globe? The other way around.
But it's not the other way around, is it? They project the globe onto a flat surface.
It goes through a portal.
They've got thousands of them. Thousands of non-correct maps that they're all projected from globes. Should really tell you something. Why aren't any of them perfect? Because they've come from a globe.
Yeah, that was one of the first things I noticed when I got into flat Earth when I started looking at maps. They're all projections and nothing. It's like, why not just have one map that shows it all? You know what I mean? Not all these multiple different projections of what we think things could be for whatever reason. They want to say they want to create a map that way. Why not just one? You know, why do they have multiple projections of different maps?
That's the crux
maybe
of it, isn't
because
it?
it doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit normally.
That's the crux of the deception. If you're lying about the layout of the world itself, then you better have the most obfuscation and the most smokescreen in that area. So there's literally thousands of them, all slightly varied. And they've even got methods, like with the azimuthal equidistant polar-centric projection, right? That's just one way of doing an azimuthal equidistant projection. You can center it wherever you like. You could stick it in the UK and have that as the center point if you wanted to. You know, but that means that you can generate basically infinite projections. As long as you've got the methodology, you can project it out however you like. But the base fundamental principle that's used to do that is the assumption that you're on a sphere with no mathematical qualification being given in reality. They claim it with Al-Biruni, but they can't measure that which is not physical. They can't measure a horizon, although they say it's a physical sphere edge. What's on screen is claimed to be the edge of a globe. It's not. Horizon's not a physical place. You can't measure it. You can't use it as a tangent point and assume the ground between you and it is curved. But that's all they do.
Shout out to Nathan.
Well, if they're going to imagine the ground between them and the horizon is curved, then what does Black Swan do to that?
Annihilates it. Leaves it in a
Takes
paradox.
a poop on them.
If the horizon is claimed to be a physical sphere edge, as it absolutely is, it's claimed to be the edge of a globe Earth. Funny how they ask flat earthers to show them their edge, eh? Interesting, right, audience? Anywho, they have got an edge. The boats go over. What a coincidence. Let's not go down that road.
Yeah,
So
what about their edge?
Yeah, exactly. Their edge of a globe. They have boats going over and maths to show how much boats go over their edge. It's a physical tangent point, geometric in nature, and they say that they can draw a line to it to get geometry. Now, that tangent automatically begs the question that you're drawing a straight line to the horizon, their tangent point, because it's the point where that straight line intersects the edge, the end point, where you cannot see beyond on a sphere. But that's automatically assuming, of course, that the land between you and it is curving away from you at 8 inches per mile squared, because it's spherical, according to the presupposition, when you draw a tangent to the horizon. In reality, the horizon moves with the weather. It's not a physical sphere edge, it's absolutely preposterous. But utilising this notion, this presupposition, that the ground between you and the edge, the sphere edge, the edge that boats go over, is a tangent point, a geometric value that makes it a physical place to block the boats and buildings that they say go over it. Well, it isn't. The horizon's not a physical place. It's not a globe edge. It's not 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet. The Black Swans annihilated that assumption of geometry, and their only rebuttal is to say, well, refraction moves this physical geometric edge that we require. Well, if you're going to move it with an R-based refraction at 7/6 of the terrestrial rate of R, then you're going to need to measure R. And you can't if it's refracted, leaving the model in a paradox. Untenable.
Not just that, 8 inches per square mile comes for a parabola. It doesn't even make a sphere.
Close enough. It really matters not. They're doing it in mathematics. The earth beneath your feet is not curved. Just because someone has assumed that the horizon's a tangent point and physical and capable of blocking stuff doesn't mean that it's not merely an aspect of your perspective, dictated by the aperture of the thing you're viewing it with. It changes as you increase the aperture because it's based on the diffraction limit and the weather. But you want to claim it's a physical obstruction of boats and buildings based on geometric maths at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet? No. Foreshortening. You go higher, you can see further. You've got a wider angle if you get higher. So that wider angle will increase the limit that you can see into the distance. That's all it is. So long as you can see that far based on the weather. Go on.
So Nathan, you're saying perspective with optics?
Optics is what we use to see things, and their model is not optical. It's based in Muppet vision for a start. It's not looking at things like you see them. When you compare a picture to globe maths, you take yourself out of viewing things, that's optics, and put yourself inside on Muppet vision. That's orthographic view. Now, you'll know it's in orthographic non-optical view when you see the side of your own head and a line drawn between target and observer. So both target and observer are in the frame, because it's nothing to do with optics. They're making this assertion that the horizon's a physical tangent point with geometry, not optics. Well, how do we see things? Not geometrically, I can tell you that much. We see them optically.
Well,
didn't somebody come up with a list?
Again, Neil?
Didn't somebody come up with a list of all the reasons why we see things?
Yes.
They came up with a list.
I don't know who came up with the list originally, but
perspective list.
Yeah, Tim Osman utilised the list to assert all of the one item itemised list was all the things that flat earthers assert as excuses for Earth curve. And on the other list, they've got Earth curve. That would be geometric, physical, Earth curve obstruction, an edge for boats to go over. That's their only assertion for why things in the distance can't be seen at a certain point. Now, given that the weather can obscure things, and your aperture of the viewing device, or your eye itself, will limit how far you can see and therefore where the horizon is, this claim to be physical blockage of boats and buildings, yeah, they've got it down as geometric physical sphere edge horizon blockage. We say no, there's many things that can cause the horizon to move, and it does.
Nathan, their claim has never been that perspective causes things to be disappearing bottom up. Their claim has always been physical Earth curve. And yet when they argue this point, they have to do what we said already earlier. They have to change the meaning of Coriolis when it comes to 15 degrees. And now they're changing what is causing things to disappear bottom up. To them, with no one knowing what to ask correctly in a rebuttal, it's Earth curve. But the minute you know how to phrase your comeback question to them, it's no longer Earth curve. It's refraction. It's perspective all of a sudden. It's something else.
Yeah, they can't use perspective. As I say, when you're using Muppet vision, that'd be orthographic side-on view, seeing the side of your own head and a target between you, the observer, and the target. When you're comparing to a photo that doesn't have you in the shot because you're taking the picture, when they do that, they remove all aspects of optics. It's geometry. So when they assert things that are optical effects, like refraction, they do have refraction in their geometry. It's called terrestrial refraction and is based on the R value that they'd need to acquire. And they can't if it's refracted. So it leaves the model untenable. It becomes paradoxical by nature. You can't have both a geometric visible horizon when it's being moved with a refracted R value to a different position, making it not visible anymore. We don't have a physical...
Not to forget,
Go on.
Not to forget, we can do demonstrations of what we observe on flat surfaces.
Right. Know this, audience. The horizon is not a sphere edge. Boats aren't going over an edge of a sphere when they reach the horizon. That's what they're claiming, and they've relinquished it They've told us in no uncertain terms that the geometric horizon cannot be seen, even though that's the very thing they used to assert block boats and buildings as their boats went over their edge. That'd be their horizon that they think is a sphere edge and physical and blocking things. When they put it inside view and ignore all aspects of actual optics and how we view things. So this picture that's being taken, if you want to calculate how much they claim is being blocked at the bottom of this, you can bet your bottom dollar you'll see the next picture with the side of your own head in the picture, and this being represented as a line across the image as a single point on the right-hand side of the page, labelled as target with tangent points for horizon, single marked with X locations rather than full line images without you being in the picture. So they take your world, take it out of reality, put it into the abstractions of maths, and then assert that a horizon is now a marked with an X labelled horizon point on a sphere edge with a tangent. Oh no, it isn't. That's nothing like reality. Doesn't include optics. Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Nope. We can breathe.
Nope.
And we don't have to prove it by the scientific method because it's natural law. And you prove natural law by simply doing something, and then the natural law part always happens. But some people refuse to accept that, it seems.
Can someone show me natural law that doesn't have containment?
No?
Not natural law that doesn't have containment. Gas pressure that doesn't have containment.
Gas pressure law.
They tend to have a V in it, for volume of the container.
Can I have proof of this dome?
Yeah, we've got gas pressure.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah, gas pressure, Neil.
I remember that show, Nathan, when we were talking about gas. You can't have gas pressure without containment, and they cited that reference. And you said, "Now, with your high-pitched voice that you do sometimes. Now, what does that V stand for?" So they can't say the word container, but they could say the V word, right? Volume. How do you have volume?
But volume isn't containers.
Yeah,
Volume
it's the
isn't
same.
containers.
That's QE asks
You
that.
don't
How do you have volume?
understand.
QE asks the same question. How do you have volume without a container? Yeah, gas
That's a
needs
good
containment,
question.
right? Gas expands in all directions, and it occupies the amount of volume it has to occupy. The amount of space that it has is how much it will occupy. And you can qualify it if you've got an amount of space that's available to it, then that is the amount of space that it will occupy once it's been presented to it. Gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. So without the container, there can be no pressure. So you need containment. It's the necessary antecedent for gas pressure. So the fact that we have gas pressure means we absolutely, without doubt, must have that necessary antecedent. Because without it, we wouldn't have the pressurized gas we're breathing.
This is when they pop up and say pressure gradients.
That's an easy one, pressure gradients. Where'd you get the pressure in the first place?
Yeah.
No, you got it wrong. It's pressurized gas.
Where'd you get the
Pressurized.
pressurized gas in the first place?
Yeah, where'd you get the pressurized gas without a container?
I brought it with a tin.
Put it in a
It's just the way
wheelbarrow.
the Earth works. It's different up there.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, just a
No.
word made up to keep the imaginary globe model going.
The reification fallacy.
Just concepts built on
It's relative
more
density.
concepts.
Oh, let Owen. Go ahead, Owen.
It's a reification fallacy. Basically, relative density explains all the phenomena associated with gravity, except those that are purely conceptual and impossible, like in space. Know that?
That's an interesting word that gets brought up on my property a lot. When we have 5,000 gallon, I believe they're polyurethane, but anyway, they're these huge tanks that we fill the water up with the well. And since it's at top of the hill, we have a 4-inch pipe coming all the way down to the base of the flat 10 acres at the bottom of the property. And it creates pressure, of course. So people that worked here before, he says, so how do you get your water? And I go, I have a well up there, and see those tanks? Yeah. Oh, so it's gravity fed. And I said, what do you mean? What do you mean gravity fed? It's just part of the language, right? They think it's something on the ground pulling it in the sense of this mythical force called gravity.
Right. It's just water pressure. It's density.
Yeah.
But I think the terminology is even water pressure. They could just go, because water does exert pressure. It does.
That's hard.
On the
It's
container.
hydrostatics.
And if there's a hole at the bottom, then the whole thing's going to press down into that hole unless it's completely sealed. And then the air also has to escape into the tanker in order for the water to escape. But yeah, water pressure. It's gonna go downwards because it's denser than the air.
Well, the guy said, is it a gravity fed system? I go, no, it's hill. It's a hill and it's coming down. What gravity?
Feed me, gravity, feed me.
It's a great conversation starter, though.
Yeah, but I like hydrostatics. It's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose you have a waterbed then.
Is it level?
It's not static.
So is there any evidence of gravity? I'm still waiting.
No, it's a hill.
Water beds are great, but until they become open, closed containers, then it becomes really messy.
Right. Any single
Thanks,
viable
Lite.
hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
Not at all.
Yes.
Not ever.
Maybe one day they will be able to very manipulate the heavenly body lights, like on the spot. Who knows?
Maybe.
How?
But never really know.
Sorry,
What
but
do you mean
they
how?
can't.
Maybe they can already do this and they're keeping it a secret to us.
Owen's got to the
No,
nub of
you know
the.
why they can't?
Owen's got to the nub of the question. Right. So, this is the phenomena they detail. Right. The lights in the sky. You can absolutely assert that as step one. What's your phenomena? Well, you could say the motion of the stars. That's a phenomena. So, you need to establish the cause of that effect if you're going to call it science. That's what science is. What caused that? Oh, that's interesting. I wonder what causes that. Well, they assert that we're turning on a spherical Earth and moving around the sun. That's a cause. Have they got science for that? No. They just looked up at the sky, made a note of the motion, got a detailed, accurate account of it, and then back-engineered it onto a sphere as a philosophy so you could understand those motions. Did they in any way ascertain cause? No! Not at all. Merely applied their philosophy when modelling the stars and their movements. Still a phenomena. They could still give you a valid hypothesis. They haven't, though.
Nathan?
What?
That doesn't sound like science.
How did they
Hold on,
manipulate
Neil.
the Earth spin?
Hold on, Neil. Go on, Flatsoid.
How did they manipulate Earth spin to see if it's the cause?
They didn't. They made it up.
They're not
It's
science.
natural law, Flatsoid. It's always spinning. You
I'm
can't.
saying it doesn't sound like science.
Look, this is simple. This brings back the Coriolis argument. If it was Earth spin that causes us to see the stars move, then a drone, an airplane, shortened flight times, all those things would exist as we argue about the lack of Earth-based Coriolis.
Precisely. Yeah. The cause of Coriolis is Earth turning underneath. The stars, the football, the bullet. Earth's claim to turn underneath it at 15 degrees now. That's their causal relationship asserted for the stars. Back-engineered from watching their motions. But it's not causal. Because the cause, Earth turning underneath at 15 degrees an hour, would cause flights to be reduced in time when travelling west. Flight leaves the claim to be spinning Earth from Charlotte, North Carolina, It goes into the air, and Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, so that the guy on the ground can look up and go, oh, look at that. That plane looks like it's curving. It's not. It's just me, and I'm turning underneath it, bringing Los Angeles to the plane in an hour and a half, when combined with the flight speed. Well, does that happen? No, it takes 4.5 hours. Pretty much the same in both directions, because Earth is not rotating underneath the plane. And then when you get back, when you assert that and you point out something glaringly obvious, it's asserted Earth turning underneath. That would reduce flight times. What's the rebuttal? Oh, well, then you get Simon Dan. What's that you say you need 2 reference frames? No, I don't say it, Clown Show. You do. And you're justifying why we don't see that. 1 reference frame, Simon Dan. No, you need 2 to show 15 degrees an hour as Earth turns underneath. That's the claim. Initially observed by, why is that star moving like that? It must be me turning underneath it.
Oh, Virus in chat says Coriolis is the conservation of angular momentum over a spinning surface.
What?
If conservation of momentum was Coriolis, then it wouldn't be called Coriolis, it would be called conservation of momentum. Let me just try and detail this for somebody who's obviously a very low intellect. Coriolis effect is Coriolis effect, and conservation of angular momentum is conservation of angular momentum. They're 2 different things. Now, if you're conserving momentum, maybe you can answer me this from the chat, Virus. Given that the frame of reference you are on is claimed to be, wait for it, non-inertial, what precisely is it conserving? Because the frame of reference you're on is non-inertial. So is it retaining that non-inertial reference frame's inertia? That seems a bit stupid now, doesn't it? Now, if you understood what Coriolis effect was, Virus, you wouldn't be being humiliated by a flat earther who's pointing out that you can't retain the velocity of a non-inertial reference frame. Now, the reason you're on a non-inertial reference frame when you detail Coriolis is because the drift you observe is not actual drift. You're seeing something seem to drift. So again, if it's retaining velocity, are you describing something that's not actually drifting? Why would it need to retain anything? It's not actually doing anything, it's you observing it seem to drift. Again, why do we need to worry about the velocity it's retaining? Maybe you can explain it with the lamppost example I gave. Is the lamppost retaining velocity of the roundabout I'm observing it from? Or is it concreted into the ground? Yeah, that lamppost doesn't need to worry about its velocity, it doesn't have any. But I see it seem to drift. That's Coriolis effect. It's not retaining angular momentum of the roundabout. The lamppost concreted into the ground. Foolish fool, wretched wretch. Go get yourself an education in Coriolis effect. None of you clowns on the globe side understand this. It's embarrassing.
But why can't a non-actual force not have a conservation of angular momentum, Nathan?
Because it's not actual, Arwin.
But could it just be a non-actual conservation of angular momentum then?
Is it not actually retaining velocity?
Well, not actually. Yes,
well, then
it's a non-actual force.
So the not actual retention of velocity wouldn't be the retention of angular velocity then, would it? That seems a stupid thing to assert. When it's not actually retaining the angular momentum, how could it be retention of angular velocity? That seems like a ludicrous statement by Virus, a clown.
Question? What would be conserving momentum?
What momentum's it conserving?
Would that be the projectile?
Yes, Chocolate. Yes, that's what they're asserting. My example of a lamppost has the projectile, the lamppost, conserving some sort of momentum. That's right, Chocolate. Isn't that stupid?
Wait, the Coriolis effect is witnessed by who?
Somebody on a non-inertial spinning reference frame.
Oh, so nothing to do with the conservation of momentum that the projectile is either doing or not doing. It's just an observation made from the non-inertial reference frame by an observer.
That's correct. So, in other words, the velocity of a lamppost you're observing seemed to come towards you and seem to go away, and seem to go towards you and seem to go away. Because you're on a roundabout spinning underneath it, the retention of the velocity of the lamppost is non-existent. It's not moving in that example. So you don't really need to concern yourself with it. Likewise, if I was on a roundabout looking at an aeroplane in the sky doing loop-de-loops, it wouldn't matter that it's doing loop-de-loops. If I'm observing it from a roundabout, seem to come towards me in the sky, and then seem to go away from me, that's me rotating underneath, observing that effect. Sod all to do with the loop-de-loops that the plane's doing, or the lamppost that's concreted into the ground. Their retention of any velocity, if any, is completely irrelevant of an observational effect that only occurs if you're spinning underneath something. That's right, Chocolate.
But don't forget, are they not saying then Earth is just a closed system now?
Yeah. But they only need that defense if they're to assert that Earth and atmosphere travel as one. You know, they've sealed up the whole thing and it's all traveling as one. You know, north and west and south surface winds debunk that notion.
No, but like I said, they're actually saying Earth is then a closed system if they're anyway claiming this.
Only when they beg the question, after you point out that there's no 15 degrees hour deviation of the Earth rotating underneath, you get Simon-Dan defense. Well, you only got one reference frame, they rotate together. So no 15 degrees an hour. But that assertion would require them sealing the whole thing up in a big box and having it all spin together, but you've got multiple directions of surface winds. Obviously, they're not travelling together. But that doesn't give you 15 degrees an hour, which is what they actually need. So what, you're arguing for them being one reference frame like Simon-Dan? Hold on, you're supposed to be proving the Earth turns underneath at 15 degrees an hour, though. What do you mean they travel together? Then there's no drift. You're supposed to have drift. Isn't that what you claim proves Earth spinning? Yeah, there isn't any, though, is there? But you're trying to justify why there isn't any drift you claim proves Earth spinning. Well, you're just telling me why there isn't any drift, then, aren't you? Simon-Dan, for example. Clown.
Well, there's only... Go ahead, Aaron.
I just still don't see what the problem is with assuming that non-actual Coriolis deviation could not have, for some reason, non-actual centripetal forces subjected to it. Why not?
Because it's a not actual... Sorry, applied to what, Arwin? It's a not actual deviation.
Yeah, but it's a non-actual centripetal force too, so why not?
So it's not a... It's not that it's a not actual centripetal... It's not that it's a not actual
question.
centripetal force. It's just not centrifugal or centripetal force. It's Coriolis, not actual drift.
But you could think of it, and that would then latch onto the non-actual deviation of the Coriolis effect.
You're reaching.
You know?
But you can think of
make
it as
things
well.
more confusing for the ballers.
Can I dumb this down for Virus? I'd like to make it simple for him because he's still chatting some nonsense.
Go ahead.
So we have 15 degrees. We have 15 degrees an hour movement. It's either the luminaries that are moving 15 degrees and the Earth is not rotating, or it's the Earth rotating 15 degrees an hour. It's one of the two. It's pretty simple. So since it's one of the two, how can we prove this right now with the few minutes we have left? Oh, very simple.
Hold on.
Well, go ahead. But I was about to say, go ahead, Flatzoid. How can we prove this?
Helium balloons.
Okay, that's a good one. How about a shortened flight time from Charlotte, North Carolina, as if the Earth is rotating 15 degrees an hour, LA would come to Charlotte in an hour and a half. So obviously that's not happening. So we can discount the Earth is rotating. So guess what? We have 24 of these 15-degree movements for a 24-hour day. They got this by looking at the luminaries, and they reified it to the Earth turning. Wake up, buyers.
Here is some not actual money to spend in the not actual reality of our not actual world. Rakia Life. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat, Rakia Life. And with that, I'm going to say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley or Nathan Oakley 1980 premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you're watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on either premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Come on, let's go.
He's probably finishing this show.
Yeah, the problem by me, everything's quite delayed. But I don't hear anything and I talk, and then...
It's the drunk pilot.
No, it's the problem with you, Flatsoid, is you're so low. I can't hear you.
Yeah, you're very quiet, so that's why you get talked over a lot, because people only detect that you're talking halfway through your sentence.
No, I'm pretty sure it should be good now. Pretty sure it should be good now.
What should be
Is
good?
that Jazz a comment? He was in chat earlier wanting to get in.
Be gentle,
What's
be
up,
gentle.
Jazz?
It's clean
They
slate.
have the
It's been a while, buddy.
put together.
It
Going
has
on,
been a
Jazz?
while.
How
It
you
has
been?
been a while.
How's the lockdown? Have you stocked up on liquor?
That's the most important thing, right?
Buy liquor anywhere
Yes, for
during
him.
lockdown.
For him,
That's a
right?
fucking good one, but let's just get straight to the point, eh?
Okay, let's go. We're buckled in.
Hit us, Jazz. Hit us.
You got your 5-point harness on?
Yes.
This is the slowest getting to the point I've ever experienced.
Jack,
Welcome to Jazz, bro.
Get to the point, Jazz.
Okay, well, let's just hit it. We talked about the atmosphere. We agreed that there's a pressure gradient, so we'll just skip past all that shit.
I have a problem with the first word you used.
yeah, me too.
Chocolate was first.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Jazz, you know-
Who had
you know
pressure?
there's a problem.
Hang on. Who's got a problem with
We
the
all
pressure
do.
gradient?
Three of us.
We all
but-
got a problem with that word.
Let me just qualify this. You ever seen that scene in Airplane where they're lining up with the wrench and the boxing gloves and the baseball bat to smack the woman? That's us right now. You're the woman.
Yes.
Absolutely great movie. And actually, have you ever heard the saying, you wouldn't have because you're not a pilot? In the future, there'll be in the cockpit, there'll be a computer, a dog, and a pilot. The dog will be there to bite the pilot to make sure the computer's going. And you're the pilot.
This is from a pilot. That's very self-deprecating, but very funny. I like it, Jazz.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying.
Flies.
Anywho, let's
Jazz,
carry on.
that word atmosphere, Jazz. We might have to talk about that.
The best description.
Correct.
The best description of being a pilot I ever heard was I can't even remember where it came from, but it was being a commercial pilot is hours and hours and hours of endless boredom, punctuated by moments of sheer terror.
Well, I
Sounds
wouldn't go
very
that
appealing.
far,
That sounds
but
fun.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I don't fly a plane, but I do fly a paraglider.
That sounds safe.
They are.
the most accurate thing.
Hang on, Jazz. Do you have a cruise control on that paraglider?
Yeah, pretty much, actually. Yeah.
On a powered flight.
Catch thermals.
Oh, no, I should have been more specific. A powered paraglider. So
okay.
I've got a motor strapped to my back, with a throttle in my hand.
But can you? Do you? Have you ever caught thermals or pockets of hot air?
Yeah, and raised up in altitude rather quickly. Yes.
You on the globe side or flat Earth side by interest?
I'm a glober. Yes.
Why isn't that thermal going down at 9.8 meters per second?
Well, hot air rises, and that's what you're catching.
Rises? No. Down. Down. Go boom boom. 9.8 meters per second. Have you not seen Thunderfoot's video? Thunderfoot poured some bouncy balls into a fish tank to demonstrate this. Down, mate.
Okay.
You're on the globe side. So you understand it goes up then.
Explain that then.
Just so we're all on the same page. You appreciate this whole notion of gas being held here by gravity is just nonsense. You appreciate that, right?
Explain what you were talking about, though. I mean, I said I fly a powered paraglider, and that I have experienced thermals carry me upwards. So explain if that it's not hot air rising that I am riding up on. How am I going up in altitude?
I'm not questioning whether or not you can catch thermals. I'm asking you, the globe believer, why that would be the case when we have this assertion of a universal downward vector at 9.8 meters per second. Now, I also qualified it by saying there's an example. Somebody who thinks that I'm an idiot, by the way. A guy called Thunderfoot. Now, when I put that to him, he explained it by saying, no, gas is comparable to bouncy balls. Watch what they do when I pour them. They go down. And I'm asking you, the one that's explaining how thermals can take you up, because they're going up, how that would be the case given this universal downward force. Now, obviously, that's ludicrous. I think we can all agree, given that you've detailed how this gas is going up. And it's not behaving like bouncy balls and going down. We all understand that. But I'm then qualifying that or going on to say, given that that's nonsense, not a universal downward vector, single vector 9.8 meters per second squared, why would we have gas pressure here on Earth if the sky was a vacuum?
Nathan, we've talked about this. It's not gas pressure. It's not gas pressure. It's atmospheric pressure. You've got to let it go.
It's atmospheric pressure. Is it atmospheric pressure? Is it atmospheric pressure? Is it atmospheric pressure? Is it atmospheric pressure?
Atmosphere is gas.
Nathan, shut up just for a second and let me ask Solaris a question. Solaris 948. When you're flying your paraglider,
yes.
Do you have an instrument called, they have it in gliders, I'm not sure if you have it in paragliders, called a variometer?
Yeah.
With your vertical speed, and it goes...
Your eyeballs pop out. It beeps faster and faster to slower.
Is the pressure
depending on
your eyeballs? Yeah. Wow, this is all fascinating.
Can we let Just get to the end of his point?
I know what you're talking about.
Hold on. Okay, everyone shut up. I just want to hear Just get to the end of his point, because this is going to demonstrate how we have gas here. Obviously, if the sky's a vacuum.
No, Nathan, we've done this. We don't have gas pressure on the surface of the Earth.
What do we have?
We don't have gas pressure.
What do we have?
We don't. We have gas pressure.
What do we have
on the surface of the Earth?
What do we have?
You've got to stop doing this.
Just
makes you look like a
Do we have atmospheric pressure? Is that what you would prefer us to call it?
We have when you stab your tire, the gas pressure in the tire reverts to atmospheric pressure, not gas pressure.
Oh, so it is atmospheric pressure. You see, earlier we pointed out that, like in that scene, we still passed that real fast. Yeah, we were going to line up to pummel this word atmosphere. See, atmo means air. Yeah, we've got air. Yeah, we'll definitely agree to that. However, this word sphere, that's nonsense. No, we don't have atmosphere. Because that's an assumption that air takes the shape of a sphere. It doesn't, though. It takes the shape of its container. Whatever the volume available to the gas, that's what it'll be. And whatever shape that container is, that'll be the shape. So it's not spherical air. No, atmosphere is not something we have. That's an oxymoron.
Completely irrelevant.
Yeah, it's totally relevant, because you're saying we don't have atmospheric pressure. We have atmospheric pressure rather than we just have air going up. And it seems to have sidetracked this dude that I was asking about his concession, that it's not going down with the universal force at 9.8 meters per second. It's going up. So you seem to have hijacked my point. I was taking that dude somewhere, Jazz. I was taking him to... Obviously, we all accept then that not down, not universal down, not holding the gas down. Dude.
Sorry, I couldn't hear anything you were
Can I ask
saying
Jazz
over
a
fucking
question?
the drunk clown.
Who's rumpusing? Because I'm trying to talk to... Is it Solatra?
Jazz.
Solaris, rather?
Mr. Booze sounds like Travis saying he can't hear anything in
I'm not
Discord.
interrupting.
Okay, I'll try
I'm
again.
just letting y'all talk.
So, Solaris, is that your name? You
Yes.
understand that to assert a universal downward vector as an assertion for why gas is staying here, given that you've experienced it going up. We don't have a universal downward vector with gas. You understand that, right?
Whatever you say.
No, I'm asking you. Okay, whatever I say we definitely don't have, by your example, a universal downward vector applicable to gas. You've violated that with demonstrations and you've experienced personally. So to assert that gas has got a universal downward vector of 9.8 meters per second is wrong. Whatever I say, that's what I say. So you agree, whatever I say, right?
Yeah, sure, Nathan.
So how is gas here? How is it not filling the availability of volume if the sky is a vacuum called outer space? If it's a space for gas to fill, it'd be filling it. Why isn't it? If you think the sky is a vacuum.
So is it a dome?
I don't want to hear
I
anybody
told you,
but...
Nathan, they say it's different.
Shut up. Just the guy I was talking to, please.
Solaris, yes. And like I said, whatever you say, Nathan.
I say that space is fake, because if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we're breathing would fill the availability of volume for the gas to fill, and we wouldn't have any more, because the gas volume would be massive, according to the claim that there's a massive, infinitely expanding sky vacuum. So the gas would fill that space, and we wouldn't have any to breathe. The fact that we are breathing...
Well, you know,
I'm not done. I thought it was anything I say. Is there anything I say that you interrupt with?
Go ahead.
Is anything I say, right?
Go ahead. Anything.
I was until you interrupted. I was. You interrupted. Don't need to give me permission. I'll berate you for interruption now, if you keep doing it. I don't need your permission. You're saying go ahead. I need you to shut up and listen to what I say goes. That's right. Whatever I say, it will be said to you, because you understand that gas isn't going down, go boom boom like bouncy balls in a fish tank, as asserted by retards, let's be honest. Idiots like Thunderfoot, who assert the gas go down, go boom boom. By personal experience, you know that's not true. And the only rebuttal we have whenever we assert that, no, the gas would fill the space, would be to say that gravity's holding it down at 9.8 meters per second, which is not the case. So if the sky was a vacuum, it's not. Because if it was, the gas we're breathing would be filling it. It'd have all dissipated already and we'd all be choking to death. But we're not, so we've definitely got containment of some sort. The sky's not a vacuum. Outer space is fake.
So is Jazz still here?
What happened to him? What happened to Mr. Thermal?
Yeah, I'm waiting for that guy to answer.
He ran away.
He didn't ask a question. He didn't ask a question. There's no thing for me to answer when he didn't ask a question. All he did was assert. So
Well, maybe he'll ask you a question now.
No question. Statement of fact. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. If this area on screen, this black area, was a vacuum, 10 to the minus 17 torr. Obviously, Spaceball's example has a glass dome around it to keep the gas in. But if this wasn't here, then the high-pressure gas that we all like breathing would expand in all directions and fill the availability of the volume that it has to fill. That's the second law of thermodynamics. The gas would fill the space. So because we have gas pressure, the sky is not a vacuum. Outer space is fake. There wasn't a question at the end. Not, do you think that's correct? I'll state that as absolute fact.
I get that, Nathan. There was other people wondering why I wasn't responding, and it's because I was agreeing that you didn't ask a question.
You agree, space is fake.
No, you said
Sure,
anything
Nathan.
you say. You weren't
Hold on,
interested in
10th.
the question.
10th. So you agree, space is fake. Outer space, from what they present
Nathan.
about this place, is not real. You understand that as a globe Earth believer.
Sure.
Speak up, please.
I'm sorry, it's just early in the morning for me. Sure, yes.
Why would you ever believe that the Earth is a sphere, given that the only claimed proof of this is taken from this fake place that doesn't exist? Pictures from space aren't real,
I like
also.
the pictures. Because I like the pictures.
The fake pictures from this fake place of Earth as a sphere. Is
Yeah, I like the pictures. That's why I believe it.
that it? You like the idea of being on a sphere?
No, I just like the pictures that come from it.
Okay,
Solaris,
then.
do you make corrections for the curve drop when you're flying your what was it, paraglider? You said.
I hear what you're saying, and no, because I don't ever leave outside of about a mile area. I fly over a couple of fields, have some fun, doing
Good
some
answer.
acrobatics.
Good
and
answer.
then I call it a day.
The vultures are circling. I think we'll stop giving you a hard time. You've been unbelievably conciliatory. Thank you.
Well, at least you're very honest.
I wouldn't say that.
I would say
He's not honest with himself,
ungenuine.
but he's honest with us.
I don't think he's honest at all.
What?
He was
What?
saying.
Honest.
He was.
You fucking.
He was trolling.
Look,
Doesn't
he
matter.
was
Call that
saying.
trolling.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Hold on. Go ahead, 10th.
He was saying that he is an experienced paraglider, motorized. Then he said he cut some thermals, which made him go up quite fast. Nathan addressed the thermals and said, how does that work on your model if you're a glober when you're supposed to have 9.8 meters per second of this downward vector on everything, including gas, like bouncy balls example you gave. And at that point, Jazz came in white knighting for him. And then finally, Nathan went with him one-on-one. And now he just says, whatever you say. So I don't think he's honest at all. I'd like for him to tell me, can he paraglide without air pressure? Can he paraglide in the space that he loves? Can he do that?
You obviously wouldn't ask that question if you knew what a paraglider even was. So
Do you need gas pressure to paraglide at all?
you need some air. Yeah, you need air around
thank
you.
you.
You need wind. It makes it easier to actually take off if you have a little bit of a headwind. Yeah.
He's
Okay,
conceded
great.
all this.
So-
I'm sorry,
Based on
10th.
what
Hold on.
hang
Yeah,
on.
hold on. He's conceded all of this. No,
That's just me.
for those of you who are divining the guy's motivations and saying, no, he doesn't really believe what he's saying, he's conceded. I don't care if he's illegitimate in his claim of concession. He's conceded. Why are you being like vultures? Let him be. What's the problem?
I'm not being a vulture, and I heard his concession. But what I'm trying to ask him now is a follow-up question to his concession. So, this air pressure, can it exist next to a vacuum at they say 10 to the minus 17 torque? Can you have air pressure next to a vacuum without any membrane?
I've never experiment to tell. So
You don't know just by life itself?
I've never personally done an experiment to tell the difference, so I cannot speak intelligently on the matter.
What do you know what a vacuum is?
Oh, I know what a vacuum is. I just got through earlier this morning vacuuming my carpet.
Oh, how nice. Mystic Meg.
Okay, can I bring up my point now? Why I say he's honest?
Yeah, go ahead.
Wait, can we lay off this guy?
He's not. He's honest with us by saying he's just believing it because he likes it, but he's dishonest with himself because he's believing that's not reality.
He said that, though. We've got that from him. I mean, I think we can go easy on this guy. I'm quite taken aback by his attitude.
I don't know why y'all keep coming after me on it.
I agree.
Guess you just don't like my answer.
No, I like your answers. I'm very grateful. I thanked you. And I agree. I'm on your side. I don't know why everyone's going after you. I think we should give you a break at this point.
I'm also agreeing with you. That's why I'm saying what I said.
Yeah, yeah. Can't divine the guy's motivation. If you think he's trolling, I don't care.
Quick question. So is the acceleration universal or not?
Say again, Shadow?
Is the acceleration universal? Is like 9.8 meters per second square? Like
no.
Is that a constant? Okay.
No, it's not. Get out of thermal.
Has Jazza run away?
I don't think so.
I wanted to ask him a question about his Atmo.
Yeah, he has. It looks like he has gone, actually.
I wanted to ask him what is Atmo comprised of.
Well, actually, if you look in the live stream, I actually posted the definitions. I went, Atmo, what does that mean? It's air. I defined air, and it said gaseous substance, and I defined gaseous, which means having the characteristics of a gas. So I tried to help him out.
So Atmo is air, right? But just air.
What's air made out of?
What's happened is just... Go on, Paul.
What's the air made out of?
Gas. Gases.
So how do you have gas pressure without a container?
Can't. They've figured out that you can beg the question with this word atmosphere. It's like there's certain keywords that when they use them, they're like, well, that's the reason, because we've got orbits. Okay, what's an orbit? Well, it's my assumption that things fall around a spherical Earth. That's what it is. So this is another one of those words that they utilise just to beg the question. Well, it's not air pressure. It's atmosphere. It's my special pleading fallacy. It's air that's in a spherical shape around a spherical Earth. Air sphere. It's not air, it's the air sphere that's staying here magically.
How's there an orbit if there's no R?
You can't. Their presupposition falls to pieces. They're begging the question that we've automatically got a sphere Earth, and therefore when you travel out or up, you're eventually going to start falling around a sphere. Well, no, the idea was demonstrated by way of presupposition and measuring a point in the distance they thought was a physical sphere edge. We call it the horizon. It moves with the weather, and you can change it just by changing your optics if you can see further in a clear enough day. Well, those things aren't conducive with a physical geometric sphere edge for boats to go over and to block buildings in the distance. So you can't really use R if you haven't got R, Paul.
Nathan, Jazz brought up the example of the tire with a hole in it, and he said, what happens to the air when it comes out? It's going to atmospheric pressure. You call that?
And then he was muted.
No, he said it. He wasn't muted. So my question to that is, does he understand?
Somebody muted him.
Can I talk?
Didn't mute him. If somebody muted him, it wasn't me in Discord. If that's why I buggered off, that's annoying, because I tend not to do that.
May I finish?
Yeah, and I just want to clarify, sometimes you have people on the panel that are going to disturb, and sometimes you just have to deal with it. In that case, we were dealing with it. It did get very quiet from him at some point. I just didn't give it much thought, but obviously someone else who's a mod or something stuck him on mute because they couldn't hear. Which is fair enough, I suppose. Go ahead, 10th.
All right. So he said when there's a hole. Okay, let's say you have a tire with 40 pounds of pressure, and he said there's a hole. And that pressure comes out, and it's now atmospheric pressure, if I heard him right. Doesn't he realize that at sea level we have 14.7 psi of pressure, and that's already accounted for before you fill your tire?
Yeah, it's used that example to utilize this word atmosphere. So saying you give an example and saying no. When the tyre has its pressure leave the container through the hole that you've slashed and return to whence it came, which is the atmospheric pressure, he's just done that so he can beg the question of atmospheric pressure, the assumption that it just stays here around a sphere in a vacuum.
Right, but his example itself embarrasses him, because in order to have 40 pounds of pressure in a tire, the volume of the tire exists, so you have a container called the tire. When you have that hole, that 40 pounds comes out and it mingles back with 14.7 psi. It couldn't be 40 pounds next to 14 psi without the membrane. So how in the world can you have any air pressure next to this vacuum?
Yeah, it's a much bigger differential between a vacuum of the sky, which doesn't exist, and the 14.7 we have at sea level. Their argument in rebuttal is to say, well, we have a gradient. And? So we've got gas produced at ground level in its highest concentration, dissipating as it goes up, because there's no trees in the middle of the sky producing it to keep the consistency of level as you go up. But to have the gas in the first place, you need it to be under containment. Yes, we have dynamic systems. Yes, it's in cycles. Yes, it's produced at ground level and gets thinner as it goes up because there's less being produced. But to have any of those things in existence, you first must have containment. Because without the containment, i.e. if the sky was a vacuum, it's never going to generate a gas pressure gradient. Because it's got nothing to press on, it just immediately would dissipate into the sky vacuum. We'd never generate pressure in the first place.
Well said.
Wouldn't gravity...
This reminds me of, remember, I think it was...
Hold on, Flatsoid. Go on, someone say gravity?
It reminds you of...
Yeah, wouldn't gravity explain it?
Yeah, we went through that with the other guy, Shadow. So I started off there, so I took it away from him before the argument began. Got him to appreciate and understand that the gas is not going down, go boom boom at 9.8 meters per second with a single downward vector of gravity. The thermals, the gas going up, Shadow. Do you not remember that conversation? It was only about 10 minutes ago. Gas isn't going down like bouncy balls in a fish tank. Maybe you're a Thunderfoot fan. Gas doesn't behave like solids.
Okay. There's a lot of wording, so...
Gas, I'll make it smaller, shorter, simpler. Gas does not go down, go boom boom, like bouncy balls in a fish tank. Thermals, like the guy on his paraglider, would debunk that shite. Not down, go boom boom, up.
Okay.
So gravity's not holding the gas here. It's not got this universal downward vector. Gravity's not real. Gravity's not a force. Gravity is a conceptual medium being bent. Gravity is described with the mathematics of pseudo-Ramonian force space. Pseudo. This isn't real, it's not holding gas here.
Let's say it was real, though. It still wouldn't be able to hold gas here, correct?
No, even if this downward vector 9.8 meters per second, it wouldn't fly in the face of entropy increase. Still have free expansion into a vacuum. The gas would still fill the space, even though they've got this assumption of a downward vector. Even though that isn't real. Even though we can demonstrate that the gas isn't going down, it's going up.
No, it's not. What's holding it down?
It's not going down. It's going up. The guy gave you an example with thermals. Is the guy on the thermal going down 9.8 meters per second? He's not. It's going up. Is this struggle? Oh, bless him. Is this hard to comprehend? The guy in the thermal's not going down at 9.8 per meters. Let's try that again. 9.8 meters per second. He's not going down. He's going up.
So why may I have pressure gradient?
Sorry, he's not going down, is he? Is the guy on the thermal going down? Is that gravity, is it? That's what gas does, right? It goes down 9.8 meters per second, like if you pour bouncy balls into a fish tank. Is that what the guy on the thermal's doing?
Mm-hmm.
Going down? No, he's not. You're stupid.
So
You didn't hear that guy say that hot air rises?
Pressure gradient.
Sorry, Chikey, the guy isn't going down with the universal downward vector at 9.8 meters per second. That is gravity. And he, on his little paraglider, is pissing in the face of that. Do you understand?
No.
No.
What creates
Well then,
Nathan,
fuck off, you moron. If you don't understand my words in baby talk with less syllables, then you can fuck off, you thick shit. I really like the picture on screen. It's like a Earth. Obviously, you're never going to get the picture in the first place. It's a fake picture from a fake place. But Earth with the gas, like a balloon, going out into the sky vacuum. Farcical in itself, because the gas would expand in all directions.
Not just that, gas takes the shape of its container.
What's the container in this picture? Oh, there isn't one. There's just a vast amount of space for the gas to fill. And fill it must.
Exactly.
It expands in all directions. All vectors. Not down. Not go boom boom. Not like bouncy balls. Not like Thunderfoot says. He's supposed to be a PhD. My God. I hope people don't pay him for his work. Thunderfoot. PhD? Are we all sure that that's actually true? I know it's published on Wiki that he's got a PhD. But the man's a clown. He thinks gas goes down like bouncy balls in a fish tank. I mean, that is stupid. On another level. You know, if I was his employer and I found that out, I'd sack him. I'd say, you call yourself a PhD, do you not understand how gas behaves? Why are you pouring bouncy balls, solids, into fish tanks and saying that they've got 9.8 meters per second vector downwards applied to them, like these solids, poured through gas, I might add, when the gas itself is expanded in all directions? In that room, the gas itself wasn't the bouncy balls. False analogy, and that's not how gas behaves. Why would someone who's got a PhD, that would be Thunderfoot, a clown, assert that to millions of people? Why would it be the case that me, someone who's ridiculed for being a flat earther, has to point out to somebody that's claimed to be educated, a PhD, that he hasn't got the slightest idea how gas behaves? I mean, I do take great pleasure in it. I'll do it right now. Hey, Thunderfoot! You're really stupid. You think that gas behaves like bouncy balls when you pour them into a fish tank. That's not how gas behaves, Thunderfoot. What? Who gave you your PhD, you complete idiot? That's not gas behaviour, my friend. I'm Nathan Oakley, a flat earther, and I'm telling Thunderfoot, a PhD, that he's a complete idiot. And he doesn't understand how gas behaves. He used a solid to demonstrate it. What a complete idiot. That's a pleasure doing that. It's really great. Anyone else want to tell Thunderfoot how stupid he is? Be my guest.
I think you've already...
Maybe it stands for player hating degree.
Satellites.
Maybe it stands for what?
Player hating degree.
Piled higher and deeper.
Can I play baller's advocate for 1 second? Because I haven't heard this before. and I don't believe this, but I want to see how it's dismantled.
Sorry, I missed the beginning. How what's dismantled? Sorry, or are we about to tell us?
So no, I'm not. I don't agree with this. I just want to hear what you would say to this. So I was talking about the gas pressure without a container to a baller, and he claimed that the electric field of the ionosphere is the container. So let me just make that claim in a baller's name.
Okay. So what's an ionosphere?
Oxymoron.
Sounds like it.
So, but how about just an ionous plane then?
They've got an assumption of a spherical field generated. And correct me if I'm wrong, if they're to example this, they have it generated within a container. Am I correct?
Are you referring to that one that FTFE's shown?
I don't know. I don't.
That's what I have seen. That's what I.
When I've had an example, when I've had an example to me with that claim, they show it in a container, and then show that they can contain gas within a field generated within a container.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing.
Okay. Well, we're asking a very specific question. How can you have gas pressure without a container? And if they say, we can get gas pressure without a container, and you go, okay, show me. And they say, here is gas pressure without a container in a container. Do you see the problem there?
Yeah, true. So there's nobody that can demonstrate. Basically, no one can demonstrate that claim without the container. That's not available.
Yeah, you've got two options. When they get to that claim, they made the claim, then what are they going to do to demonstrate it? They've got one of two choices. Number one, point at the sky and assert their religious fundamentalist zealot belief that the sky is a vacuum. And then come up with a just-so story to demonstrate that they can have gas pressure without a container. In this case, the ionosphere. Or, that's route number one. Or, route number two, demonstrate it with gas pressure in a container. So when they claim it and don't appeal to their fundamentalist religious belief and actually provide a demonstration, the first thing you'll note is that the demonstration requires containment.
Brilliant. I just wanted to get clarity on that.
Typically, the first move is to point at the sky vacuum fundamentalist religious belief. Give me an example of gas pressure without a sky vacuum. They will say, well, look at the sky. That's gas pressure without a container. So they literally beg the question and use their fundy belief that the sky vacuum is real to assert that the sky vacuum's real.
Or Nathan, or they're like running away when you ask them to show a gas law that says no volume.
Indeed. So yeah, realise that first you've got to point out that they're no doubt going to be using their fundy belief. Well, it happens in the ionosphere. Really? According to what? Your religious texts? NASA? What? According to your fundy belief, that's what the sky does. All right. Okay, let's see a demonstration of that then. Oh, what do you know? It's got a container around it. Hope that helps.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Yeah, I had to go for a minute, but just caught the end of that conversation. So they have the atmosphere, and based on what I'm looking at, more begging the question: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. How many times are you going to use that word sphere?
Got to beg the question, man. It's the spherical model.
Can you guys hear me? I've been trying to get in. Can
yes,
you hear me
we
now?
do. Hooray! It's Paul Hall, ladies and gentlemen.
Shout out to Paul Hall. Actually, I dropped a GIF that I see a lot on this Discord server, and I'd like to address that. I dropped it into Master B.
Okay.
I want you to look at it really closely and watch what's happening. You can bring it up.
Yeah, I've got it on screen.
This is their proof of gas pressure without a container, right? If you notice, does that look anything like a ball, first of all?
It all seems to be inside this square box thing.
Yeah, and if you notice, the gas particles seem to want to bounce off to the left side and the right side as well.
Yes, indeed.
Remember, see that?
Yeah.
And it's still
Container
contained,
walls.
right? Yeah, container walls. Of course, Lily's deciding to get her 2 cents in. Well, remember that little video I did for about 38 minutes? Remember when I did that?
Yeah.
And I just let Nick Weck simulation run for 38 minutes. And what happened to all the gas around that ball with
Fill the
gravity
space.
in full effect? You guys
Build
remember?
the space.
I do.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yep.
Yeah,
Build
I've
the
made a video of
space.
it.
Yeah, I actually made a video of it. I
The
actually said
gas
that's better.
filled the space.
Even with gravity in full effect around the so-called ball, the gas still filled the available volume. So it's funny how the analogies they always use don't really make it work within what they're trying to prove. They always have to use some other caveat, like that GIF that's a contained box, not a sphere, doing the same thing.
But just a quick question about this example.
GIF that I do. What's that?
Quick question about this example. So let's take away the box and say that that's a balloon. This would imply that the balloon has got high pressure at the bottom of the balloon and low pressure at the top. So is that what happens when you blow up a balloon then? Do you tend to have the bottom section with all the gas pooling at the bottom and like a really floppy, soggy bit at the top? Soggy? Flappy bit at the top of the balloon. Is that how balloons tend to work, or do they tend to have the gas fill the availability of volume? Do you normally have this black bit? I'll just show it with my mouse for my audience. So if this is a balloon, you've got gas particles bashing along the bottom, which is obviously going to make the balloon at the bottom really fat. And then what? There's no pressure against the top, so you're going to have like this whole area of the balloon collapsed in because the outside pressure's pressing in on it. What gives? The pressure doesn't pool at the bottom of a balloon.
Yeah, you don't typically see that very often in a balloon, for sure. I agree.
I want to see this with a balloon. I want to see gas at the bottom of the balloon only, and the top of the balloon with no pressure. So you fill the balloon, you blow into the balloon, and like this, all the gas pressure sinks to the bottom, right? Like bouncy balls in a fish tank. That's what happens when you fill a balloon, isn't it? Oh, no, it doesn't. The gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. This is shite. Nonsense.
Well, and there's another problem with it too.
Well,
what if I was to put a heat? Oh, go ahead.
Well, the other problem is, what is an area devoid of any gas pressure? What's that called?
Vacuum.
A vacuum. So this is depicting.
Supposed to be called.
So you're saying that in this container, we've got a vacuum, and what's actually happening is the gas particles go into the vacuum and then just suddenly lose energy. This one here, oh, it's coming back down again. No. Gas expands in all directions, and unless it hits something, it just carries on in whatever vector it's got until it collides with something. It doesn't suddenly lose momentum. Why is this doing that? It's not had any elastic collisions take place. Why is it losing kinetic energy? That's not how gas behaves. Balloons don't
They
fill
think
from the
the
bottom up.
gas ran out of gas.
Balloons don't fill from the bottom up. They don't behave like liquids.
What was happening?
This looks more like a fizzy drink. This looks like gas departing from a fizzy drink. But instead of the gas expanding from the fizzy liquid, for some reason, it falls back down again. Like a bubble popping and the liquid falling back down. This isn't gas behaviour. This is nonsense. Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Well, no, then I would add one other caveat. Of course, Jess is getting fussy now. What if I was to add a heat source on one side of that container? What would happen? Constantly barraging it with heat.
It would increase the energy. But according to this, the energy is finite and runs out when it bounces upwards a certain amount.
Right, so the energy would be this heat source. And there's this big thing in the sky that is a heat source that would add a lot of kinetic energy to any particle, cause it to accelerate. So things would eventually bounce out of that container eventually because of the heat source.
Simply debunked by saying, show me this. Show me this area. That would be an area devoid of any pressure, no gas, with gas underneath it bouncing around like solid bonded bouncy balls. Show me that. Vacuum, gas, and it not filling the availability of volume. Show me that in reality. It can't be done. This is a violation of natural law, not a demonstration of gas pressure without a container. Number one, it's got a container. Number two, it's a violation of natural law. The gas, these are available microstates, right? The black bit, Paul, that would be available microstates.
Yeah, and there's an innumerable amount of microstates if I look at according to the heliocentric model.
So the black bit's an availability. And what does the gas want to do? Occupy all available microstates. And not according to this demonstration, it wants to coalesce at the bottom and bounce around like bouncy balls. No, it would want to occupy all available microstates. Is Chocolate still here? No, he is.
Yes, sir.
Any chance you can post, just so I can tack it onto the end of this, now that we've had that gift from Paul, the Michael Bolan demonstration? Post it in Master B, I'd be eternally grateful.
What, the bromine?
Yeah, free expansion into a vacuum. So while you're digging that out, if you can, this would be a vacuum. This black area with no gas pressure in it, that's a vacuum. Yep. Oh, something's entered the vacuum and now it's leaving. It's a vacuum again. Yeah. Well, we've got a demonstration that we can give of entropy, the free expansion into a vacuum, and the vacuum being quantifiable by the number of available microstates, and as soon as he opens the tap, the gas expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume it has to fill. In other words, the gas fills the space. Entropy. All he's doing is demonstrating an entropy increase. So let's have a look.
And in the other, I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other. Now that is the simplest change we can have, perhaps, because all that happens is a change in entropy. In this case, the expansion into a vacuum, nothing else is involved. There's no energy change, there's no temperature change, there's no change except entropy. So without one of these bulbs, some bromine, and in the other, I have a vacuum. And if I open the tap between these two, you will see spontaneously the bromine rush from one to the other.
Okay, so there's the bromine rush from one to the other. Now let's have a look at the demonstration they give us. Oh, no, it doesn't seem to be rushing from one to the other in this little GIF here now, does it? Seems to be all pooling at the bottom. That's weird, isn't it? Let's have another look at the demonstration in actual physicality. That would be reality. Oh, it doesn't seem to be all pooling down here, does it? Why isn't it all pooling in this bulb? This should be an empty space, right? Oh no, it doesn't do. That's not gas behaviour. Yeah, people like Thunderfoot would assert that though, wouldn't they? Idiots.
Nathan,
Thanks,
I have
Chocolate.
an example of gas behaving as a liquid. This is a joke, though, by the way.
Okay. Tell us.
Yeah, it behaves as a liquid in North America.
Gas behaves like a liquid in North America.
Yep. See it every day. Because we fill our cars with gas, not
But
petrol.
it is gas. The bit that you're burning in the engine is gas.
But we call the liquid the gas. It's called petrol, isn't it?
Yeah, okay, I see where you're going.
That's all.
Gasoline.
Gasoline.
Here's a question. Does gravity keep the gasoline in the container?
Gravity's not a force. You can think of it as a force, or a roast chicken, but it's not a force. It's not holding gas here. The assertion that gravity is a force is 105 years out of date. The current rhetoric of gravity is conceptual only, pseudo-Riemannian force space, length, breadth, depth, and time, the bending thereof. caused by the uneven distribution of mass, the effect being the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Not a force, not holding gas here. If the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. Of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out nathanoakley.com and the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!